All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Simply ICS Cyber podcast. Hi, I'm Don C. Weber. I'm the cybersecurity guy, and
I'm Tom VanNorman. I'm the ICS guy. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody. Tom, I think we planned this out, and I do think it's an important topic. It's kind of timely for some of the stuff that's going on in government. In other words, a lot of people, whether it's from government jobs, but we're seeing an increase in reduction in force. We see a lot of people moving around in the industry right now, and I have some excellent conversations with you around getting a job in OT. And so that's kind of what I was hoping to talk to you about it today. But I want to take it from a different standpoint, meaning that we could tell people how to go find resources and, get the education. And that's usually what we hear, right? I want this to be a different conversation. I want this to be a conversation about actually working, either getting, what are some of the considerations around a job? What are some of your concerns, your experiences with running a team that does this, both from an IT side and from an OT side, the cybersecurity side, but also the OT implementation. So I'm hoping that we can have that discussion and pull some of those things out. And to kick this, how would you like to start this conversation, Tom?
Don, it's a great topic here we're going to talk about today. Let's just jump into it, and we can talk about what works, what doesn't work, your experiences on education wise, training wise, hiring wise. I'll do the same. We both come from a similar background, but from a very different background on where we started, how we got into it, and everything else.
Yeah, so I've got some resources, and if you just check on my LinkedIn, on Tom's LinkedIn, we've got different resources out there for what that education should be. I've got my ICS 410 resource page. I'm constantly talking about this, the where to look, pointing to people like Rob M. Lee's list and some other people's lists out there. There's plenty of stuff out there. Just follow us out there for that. Tom, I want to know, what are the challenges? I'm trying to decide. Should we start with the challenge for the organization, or should we start with the challenges for helping people understand what it takes to hire somebody?
You know what, Don? Let's start with the organization. Let's start with that side.
Okay. So I've learned about this term. I learned about these terms when I was working for Warner Brothers. One of the business side things that I learned when I did that, that's Capex and Opex. And I've been saying this recently. Tim Conway kind of reminded me that, hey, a lot of organizations that have OT environments, so the actual production environments, they can spend a lot of money on capital. In other words, and they call that the Capex. So they can buy boxes, they can buy solutions, and figure out how to get it all deployed. That will be funded. But as soon as you get into operations, maintenance, but also people operations, that's different. So can you help people understand Capex, Opex, and how that plays?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do my best here, Don. So when we talk about Capex or capital expenditures, if you're buying something physical, a vehicle or a pump, a motor, a vessel, something to go into your plant, that's capital. You're going to depreciate it over time. That's what capital expenditure is. When we talk about OPEX or operational expenditure, that is something that that you're going to pay for now. There's no depreciation, and typically people. So when we go in for a project or we're looking to procure something, sometime that thing that we're buying does come with a person on it. For example, you're buying a network monitoring solution or a SIM solution. Part of that package, it might be bundled in an engineer to help set it up from that company that you're buying it from, but it's only a short amount of time, right? So it might be a year-long project or a 6-month-long project. you buy that, it costs X amount of dollars. That person's there from the company, or from a, that company could outsource or contract it out for whatever time it is, 6 months to a year, and then that person's gone. Where the Opex side, that person is going to work for the company, and hopefully for a long time, until the company either terminates that position or that person terminates themselves and moves on. So those are the two big things. Capex is depreciated over a certain period of time. Opex is immediate.
So when we're thinking about the bringing people on board, and it's more than just hiring somebody, right? And whenever I'm dealing with it, whenever I've considered a job with somebody, getting a full-time position, I've had to I've had to think about, like, what is my take-home pay going to be? And certainly that is a something that's important to me, because that's what I'm going to use to calculate my, paying my bills, paying my utilities, extra education, stuff like that. But there's more compensation in there, considering it from an organization standpoint. So, I mean, can you help us understand that a little bit?
So Don, that's been that's been a struggle on many on many fronts here. So, in the last couple of years or so, it's been common to get a job offer, or to offer a job and show total compensation, or even listed online for total comp. There's many fantastic employers. You go out there and look, and it's gonna have a number for total comp. Well, that total comp is your base. That's what you receive at every pay period. But then there's benefits. So we got medical, dental, vision, things like that. We'll say they're all medical benefits. But then we have 401k. We have other things that go into that, bonuses and stuff. So your base pay, what you receive every paycheck, is substantially different than your total comp. So when you're out looking for a job, you'll see that total comp, and I'm a round numbers guy, and we'll say that total comp is $150,000, but the base pay may be $100,000. Like, hey, that's $50,000. That's a pretty big spread. Well, what people fail to realize, and it matters to some and not matter, it doesn't matter to others. Medical benefits, they could be several $1,000s a month. Your 401k at 5% matching, could be another, we'll say $5,000 a year. So your bonus, if you get a bonus, could be 10% a year, which is $10,000. So right there, you could be at $50,000 extra of what you cost that company. It's pretty substantial.
And we have to offset. I mean, the company has to offset that some ways, right? And that's increasing costs to customers, right?
Increase the customers. So if you're a consulting company or a service provider, now your billable rate has to compensate for all that, right? So we talk about burden rates and things like that. That's the rate that you cost the company. So for your overhead, for your benefits, for everything you get from the company, there's a dollar value there, and it is potentially higher than what you receive in your at payday, in your paycheck.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's certainly something to be aware of. Now, as an employee, one could say, well, that's not my problem. I agree and I disagree, right? Because it becomes your problem when they can't afford to pay you the wage that you want, because they have to make money also. They have to be able to, if it's a service company, they have to be able to bill you out at some level, and 80-90% of utilization. The less utilized you get, the more money you cost, the higher the burden is for you. So there's a lot that goes into wages. There's a lot that goes into benefits, and billable rates. And even if you're not for a service company, you're for a for an asset owner or for a manufacturer, they have to look at that stuff also. So yes, you're part of Opex, and all those costs have to be accounted for.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I see that, even though I'm, I'm my own employee, but I see that playing out from a consulting standpoint. Having to tell people my hourly rate. For if I'm going to come in and do staff aug, helping an organization as an extra team member. Certainly, you've got that reduced cost associated with that, but then I'm taking the burden of some of those other things. However, in order to be marketable to you, as an example, I do have to be concerned of how much I'm asking you to do things. And I think that when we get back to that Capex and the Opex, when organizations that are trying to bring in, especially from a cybersecurity standpoint, less from an OT implementation standpoint, deploying, like their new sensors or something like that. But if you're trying to do a security assessment or a vulnerability analysis, I'm looking at the cybersecurity program. I call it as maturity evaluations. That's all Opex. And so when they don't have money to do this normally, that Opex normally, they're looking for people to, they still have to do these things. And so they're putting the bid outs, they're putting their request for proposals or their request for information out. And they've got a level that they've set, okay, we can allocate this much fund to this operational expenditure, which equates to, when organizations start doing their breakdown of their bidding, it starts getting into that hourly rate. And as an experienced cybersecurity professional, and I've looked at some of the requests from different individuals. Of course, I deal with a lot of people who are more senior, looking at some very unique use cases. And so having that 20-year expert, to 15, 20-year expert that is probably on the higher end, they're asking for high, and I'll just say it, they're asking anywhere between 300 and, 350 and to $400 an hour. That's their expectation of the low end that they're coming in at. But at the same time, that's almost double and sometimes even triple of what people expect you to pay the people that are bringing on board to manage some of these security assessments. So, I mean, what's your experience there that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, Don, those of us that worked in the service industry, and those of us who's hired consultants, both from an asset owner or from a contracting perspective, the rates can greatly vary. And one of the things that I hear, from time to time is, hey, you're billing me out at $300 an hour, but I'm only making 75. What gives here? That's a very common thing that some people say. It's not all the time. It's usually when people get frustrated or people start thinking about other things. Right, there's a reason why they do that. But if you want 4 weeks vacation, if you want the holidays, if you want all the benefits and stuff like that, you're not making, your wage at $100,000 a year, that stays constant throughout the year. As
Right.
you reduce your billable hours, from if you're working in services, you have to increase what you charge, what you bill, because when I'm on vacation or when they're on vacation and they're on a holiday or time off, they're still getting paid, but the company's not billing.
Yeah, and that, I mean, when I think about it from a full-time employee standpoint, and you have to account for those periods that, like you just said, that they're not actual billable, but you're still accountable for their time and paying their paycheck from day to day. But at the same time, we've got this expectation of cybersecurity professionals coming into this industry. And, I'm all about, people making as much money as they can. But I'm starting to see this trend of people asking for such high compensation from a monthly paycheck standpoint that is elevated beyond their actual skill sets, meaning the value that they can apply within different projects that we can assign them to and stuff like that. So, from a full-time employee standpoint, it seems like, we had this quick acceleration of full-time employee salaries, but it's not sustainable in the industry. I mean, across different organizations, whether it's consulting organizations, but probably more importantly for the OT side. So what are the OT people experiencing from that standpoint that you've talked to?
Don, we both you and I were just at a conference a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that I do is I'm the co-founder of ICS Village, and we got a grant for workforce development. And so we're out there taking surveys, talking to people, talking to companies that are hiring people, but also talking to individuals that are looking for jobs. It's a pretty cool project that we're doing because we get to essentially go on interviews to companies that we're not going to work for them. They know that going into that. The companies know that going into this, but we get to talk to people in a non-biased way. We get to anonymize that data, and we get to talk about that data and report that data. And when we talk to service companies, it's about utilization. What business can you bring, and what level of utilization can you be at? Right. So, again, round numbers guy, you're 90%, you're going to bill at this much money or this hourly rate, we can pay you here. Total math problem here that we're dealing with. Yes, we have unlimited PTO. You still have to bill at 90% utilization rate. Right. It's again, round number there, whatever that is, but that's a common thing. We have unlimited PTO, go and take the job, we'll pay you X amount of money. And by the way, if you don't stay at that utilization rate, then we're going to talk. We have problems. For service companies, asset owners or manufacturers, stuff like that. That's different. With them, one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of them struggle to understand what the problem is, or even what they're hiring for. I had many conversations over the last few months where you talk to people and say, okay, what are you hiring for? What do you need? And they're saying, I need a senior senior OT security specialist or engineer. Everybody has a different title there. Great. What are you looking for? And they it sounds like they went to AI, or they hired a consultant to bring it up, and then you ask, okay, well, what are you actually looking for? And it stops, or they come up with and be honest with you and say, you know what, I'll be managing the person. I don't really know. That's not my space. Or I'm an IT person, or I'm I work in engineering. I work here, and here. I don't know what this means. I need to hire somebody to know what that that can do that. Like, okay, that's fair. You're in management. Doesn't mean you have to know exactly what all of your reports do. That's why you have hire that's why you have you hire different level people, and you hire reports and stuff like that. So I get that, but how can't you know what you're hiring for?
Well, they pawn off the hiring to HR. I mean,
Yes.
For larger organizations, the experts for hiring people are supposed to be the human resources department, the process engineer, or whoever's in charge. And I'm just picking roles.
Yep.
I'm just saying roles names, but they know that they need an individual, and they don't necessarily know exactly what they need. They know they need individuals that are proactive. They know that they need individuals that are willing to learn different technologies and try to and do new things. We're talking about the ICS and OT side. So they need to be willing to get their knees dirty. In other words, like get down in the dust and get down in the dirt to pull cable through and, and plug things in sometimes. They know they need these individuals that are willing to go outside of their necessarily comfort zones for computer systems and have an impact on the operations while also serving that cybersecurity role. In the HR, of course, and I can hear everybody saying, when we're talking about getting jobs in OT, they're like, well, when I read these HR descriptions, they're saying that I need a CISSP and I need a GICSP and I need a CSIM. I was just looking at a request for proposal that had this long list of certification expectations and hopefuls, and I'm like reading it, going, "Wow!" After my 15 years of OT experience, I actually have a lot of that. But that's 15 years of dedicated in because I am a trainer. I've made sure that I've had those certifications. If I hadn't been a trainer, once I got my first cybersecurity job, they were like, "Okay, you should be trained up." Right. And, and so they stopped paying. I mean, I let my CISSP lapse just because I didn't want to pay for it. I had the experience, so I was demonstrating that. So HR's got a problem, as well. But I mean, of course, we're not going to handle that problem. I think that's a well-known thing. I'll pass it off. What do you think?
It's about setting expectations on both sides. What one of the things that I found out just going through talking to hiring managers and stuff like that, when you start pushing back or questioning why they need those certain certificate or certain qualifications in the job posting, they really can't answer that. And it gets disheartening to a point because when I read some of the stuff, I'm like, I don't even qualify for these things. I've been doing this thing for two decades or more. So if you're taking somebody that has 15 to 20 years, like between you and I, and we don't qualify for that job, who is? Right? And we haven't even started talking about wages yet.
Yes.
But it's quite interesting. Part of the trick is getting that interview. And getting that interview, unfortunately, sometimes gaming that resume system, because it goes through scanners, goes through stuff like that, is finding that person that you can actually talk to and getting that referral link, getting that not just that LinkedIn job posting link, but the actual referral link or the hiring manager and things like that. That's part of the battle also, because what I find that once you be able to talk to somebody, it goes a lot different than just sending in a resume blindly.
Yeah, and that's it's in this field, I do feel that it's going to be a lot more associated with managing the actual process, being able to step in. One of the things we talk about for these types of roles, and I was just mentioning this to my wife, one of the expectations when you work at a utility, if there's a storm or something like that, everybody's on task to go out and help the community. Meaning that people have roles that might be technical roles and stuff like that, but you're going to substations, making sure the computers are up and all of those things. It's all hands on deck. I mean, and you're out from behind the desk. And I don't know how that equates to some of the other areas like gas and oil and manufacturing and stuff like that. However, from a cybersecurity professional standpoint, if you're coming into this industry, you are part of the OT team. You should have that expectations of, I'm not just going to sit back here and do tickets. I'm not just going to be evaluating malware and stuff like that. I mean, that's your one part of your job, but understanding the actual process, understanding how things are done within that organization, working with the team members and stepping up, especially in an all hands situation, being ready to do that, demonstrating that you have that mentality, I think is important.
100%. It's not a, to your point, if you get hired into do a specific task, you know, looking at malware, working in a SOC, doing things like that. But you're at a utility. You're at a company that, hey, now we have a natural disaster that happened, or we have a blackout. You might not be doing that. You might be doing other things. As an employee, you got to be able to flex. You got to be able to go and jump in, even if you're not completely familiar with what's going on. There's tasks that you just talked about. Anybody can do that. Just about
So
anybody can do that, right?
that made me think of one thing. That made me think of something. We have so many people now that are just like, well, my job's remote. I need a remote job. I mean, how is that playing out for full-time employees in some of these industries?
It's not. It's not. I've been remote for quite some time now, probably 20 years. However, I also travel. I also, I don't. Yes, my desk is right here where I'm at right now at my house, but I travel a lot. I'm on the road. I'm at client sites. I'm at other places. So some jobs can be remote. Some jobs really you can't be, because when things happen, you have to be able to touch that thing that you're supposed to be working on, maintaining, building, and whatnot.
These are
Sometimes it works,
physical.
sometimes it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
case by case basis, person by person basis. But just because you were remote during COVID doesn't mean that you're remote now.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I just I'm actually getting asked to go back to Canada. I'm not sure if I can because I just went to Canada and the whole
Oh yeah.
travel thing. I mean, they limit. I mean, we limit how much people can spend time in the United States. Canada's limiting that as well.
Yep.
So I've reached my limit there, but so I can't help them because I can't do this remotely. I have to go on site, and that's been the biggest thing. Is while I travel for training, I also travel. I mean, sometimes I'm going from training site to on site to do an assessment, then coming home, or might be going to another site, and that's just a part of the OT cybersecurity. If you're coming into this field, you need to realize that. Now, should that help with compensation and stuff like that? It's a consideration you're going to have to make. What you're willing to do. So, Tom, I think where are we at now? So we're at like 28 minutes. I'm trying to keep us at 30. So, considering people coming to this job. What are your thoughts on what expectations are you hoping that would help you, whether you're hiring somebody or bringing them on as a consultant?
Be flexible. Yes, you have your skill sets, but be flexible. Look left and right from those skill sets, right? So if you can do something, volunteer to do it or learn how to do it. One of the things that I ran into in the last, we'll say, year, I hired a junior person, to do some tasks here. Well, we wanted them to learn other things, and we do OT work. This person was hired to do essentially kind of IT work, but not regular IT work. Set up domain controllers, add users, stuff like that. But it was in the OT system. Well, we wanted this person to do other OT stuff. And the response back was, I'm really not interested in learning that. Okay. Yes, we did hire you to do, add users, delete users, wipe computers and stuff like that. We don't have that work anymore. You said you're not interested in learning the other stuff, which is going to be temporary until the other stuff came back. Unfortunately, we don't have a job for you. There's nothing for you. And it's unfortunate for both end, for the employer and the employee, because to hire somebody, it's a lot of time and effort, which equates to money and resources, stuff like that. From the employer standpoint, from the employee, most people need a paycheck, a regular paycheck. Most people have bills, so be flexible, learn new stuff. Between you and I, heck, what have we been working? We've probably been working. Quick math here. 65, 70 years between the both of us,
Mm.
we've done stuff we don't like to do. I guarantee that.
And Tom, I've actually looked at work. You've presented me with work and said I can only pay you this much, and some of it I've turned down, but also some of it I've accepted because either it was interesting, you needed help, or the client needed help. And
Yes.
and I think that's important as well. I mean, if I was going to help people understand some things is, first of all, it's great to make a lot of money. However, we're not. I don't think it's sustainable in our field right now. We've actually, I feel like we've peaked a little bit, both in a full-time employee standpoint but also a consultant standpoint. Hourly rates for 1099 work. We need to be cognizant of some of that. Realizing that, understanding that, this is Opex for these industries. If we want to be in here, this cool stuff, this helping with critical infrastructure and stuff like that, a part of it is the appreciation of the job, the fact that we're giving back and stuff like that. So we just need to, hopefully we can find some mature individuals that are willing to go that extra, other duties that is required, like you're talking about, that are, willing to take it on the chin a little bit, at least now till they get that experience and they can move in, and the industry organizations start realizing that they have to pay for talent a little bit more, and then we can come back up. But, I do think we're kind of going in that wave pattern. People need to be careful. If you really want a job in this, you can't expect that you're going to make $300,000 a year take home pay,
Yep.
and so forth. So, and I use that number because, I've thought of myself, but also I know that other people are thinking about it as well. Going forward, we need to be careful. So,
absolutely. Don, I recommend people to visit the ICS Village website, find us at a conference, reach out on social media. This whole workforce development thing is something that we started recently. We're in the process of collecting data. We're in the process of putting it all together. We got a philanthropy grant from Golotech Foundation to do all this stuff. We've started to work, and it's pretty fascinating. But I highly recommend people come talk to us. Come, if they disagree or agree, reach out. We need that data so we can get back on these podcasts, get on these other places, and say, hey, what I thought was true back in February really isn't true, or hey, this is more data I got. This is how it is. We do need people.
So Tom, we'll have those notes. I'll update the show notes to make sure that people can find those. So we'll make sure that they're a part of the podcast. Also, I'm going to include some of the nice framework stuff that was put out there by the government, but also
that's good.
That SANS puts out. It's good. It helps people understand the expectation for skill sets in different roles. I'm not saying you should take SANS training. What I think is that it outlines what some of the skills that an individual needs for different roles within ICS. It's a little harder to find on the NICE site, which is the government site. It's a little bit easier to understand on the SANS site because we've broken it down pretty good. So, Tom, I think we're at our limit. Great talking to you about this, and
absolutely,
we talk about this a lot. We really hope to hit us up on LinkedIn. It's under there. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your challenges are. Certainly we can talk about this again if you want to, but find us online. We're happy to talk to people. I mentor all the time when I can, so reach out, and happy to do that. Other than that, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.